everyone, and welcome to the Burgess podcast, the show where we are opening up conversations about life at sea, discussing hot topics within the industry, as well as offering mental health support and promoting well-being for crew. We also have our very own in-house recruitment team, so if you or anyone you know is currently looking for a new position, please send your updated CV to recruitment@burgessyachts.com or check out our recruitment posts on Instagram @Burgess Yacht Crew. We will be talking today about some topics which some of you may find triggering, so please do check out the show notes before listening. So for part 2 of our International Women's Day special, we are talking with Second Stew Tayla Smith. As you may have read recently, Tayla took part in the Serengeti Girls Run, a 3-day, 63-kilometre run taking place across Tanzania's Serengeti Plains in order to help raise money for female empowerment programmes in the Grumeti region. We talked to Tayla about her reasons for running this gruelling race and about her work promoting menstrual wellness. Tayla really opens herself up in this chat, sharing her own experiences, which ultimately led her to want to help other women on how to listen to our bodies and the impact our lifestyle can have on our menstrual cycle. Her passion on this subject is so evident in this chat, and I really hope you find it as interesting as I did. Tayla, wow, what an incredible achievement. How tough was it?
So first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to sharing this whole experience with you. So never did I think that I'd ever run 3 half marathons back to back. I've only ever run one before, which was a few years ago back in the bush, and it was an amazing experience. And so I figured, why not combine my passion for women's health with my love for running in the bush and do some fundraising at the same time and run 3 half marathons. So the run itself was absolutely incredible. It was 15 of us women from around the world, everyone with a different story and background. And it was just, I'm going to make it sound like a breeze, but it wasn't necessarily. There were a lot of aches and pains and complaining along the way and some walking when times got tough. But overall, I think that it was such an absolutely incredible event because of the women who took part in it, the stories we shared along the way. We kept each other going the entire way. Overall, when I think back of the toughness, I struggle to see the toughness now because I think of the adrenaline and the overwhelm of what an amazing event it was in itself.
Amazing environment to run in as well.
Yeah, just if you can just imagine the views, the wilderness around us, the vast landscapes, running through these just open plains with, so few of us, like 25 of us in total. We were running with game scouts with their rifles, protecting us from the wildlife along the way. It had been raining, so the terrain was muddy. Our shoes were covered in mud, making it heavier and more difficult to run, dodge the puddles, slip and sliding. But it was just unbelievably, breathtakingly beautiful.
A real once-in-a-lifetime experience, I'm sure. So can you tell us a bit more about the charity and why you decided to take part in the run?
So the run is hosted by Serengeti, which is a luxury safari lodge in Tanzania, and they've got a few throughout Africa, and the Grumeti Fund. And the Grumeti Fund is a non-profit organization who work towards conserving wildlife and community development in the Serengeti in Tanzania. And so the aim of the Serengeti Girls Run is to raise funds for scholarships for local girls in secondary school, as well as continuing on to university. They also want to provide a year's worth of reusable sanitary pads so that the girls can go to school feeling confident, having a bleed, and not missing any of their education, as well as empowerment events for the girls and mentorship programs and life skills trainings for the girls. So for me, I feel very fortunate that I've had access to education and I've always been able to study anything that I'm passionate about. And the reason that I decided to take part in the run was due to my combined passion for women's health and wellness, as well as my love for running in the bush. And I believe very strongly that every woman deserves to run her own race in life. And sadly, most of the girls in these underdeveloped countries face the effects of a lack of access to education, lack of access to contraception. Many of them are forced into early marriages. There's genital mutilation. And a big one being period poverty, which is, the girls miss a whole week of school every cycle. And, accumulatively over the year, they then miss however many days of school, fall behind the boys. They end up dropping out of school, falling pregnant, early marriages, and then that's kind of it, and then struggle to find work and, continue from there. So, yeah, I wanted to run this race so that I could share the knowledge with other people and just inform people, what other people are dealing with and how we can help one another.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? And it's I live in a very privileged world, and I find it difficult to imagine any young girl not having access to sanitary wear or to resources or learnings, and so your goal is education, right? I understand that you're studying towards coaching qualification as a menstrual health educator. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I've always been really passionate about teaching. From a little girl, I always wanted to be a teacher. And when it came time to go to university, I didn't want to just study education because I felt like I knew that I would be pulled in different directions. And my dad actually guided me into encouraging me to study a business degree first, which I did, and I'm very happy that I did. And after that, I then went into education and then furthered it in education for children with special needs or learning impairments. That's where my passion lies, in helping, the less fortunate or less privileged people. And then after that, I then moved on to doing a bit of functional nutrition and women's hormones, and then have now gone down the route and recently qualified as a menstrual cycle coach and educator. And I guess my goal in studying all of this is every experience that I've had has led me to want to study and do independent research on something else. And I always say to people, okay, once I finish studying this, don't let me study again. Please promise me that you're going to not, like, if I ask you if I can study something again, just say no. And anyway, each time it comes around, I don't listen to anyone else and I end up studying. So my goal is to add fertility into the mix eventually. But I guess for now, it's basically taking my experiences and taking them from a place of shame and guilt and fear, and being more vulnerable, open, honest, and raw with people, and show people that we all struggle with something. And I want to change the way we think about this whole menstrual cycle world. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm going with all of this.
It's incredible, and it's so great that you're actually talking about this, because it is a topic that isn't very well talked about. It's not really, I don't know what the school syllabus is now on this subject, but I know certainly when I went to school, it was a taboo subject. Nobody spoke about it. And it certainly, we weren't taught about the menstrual cycle and the effects on our bodies physically and mentally. Have you drawn on your own life experience with your menstrual cycle when it comes to your teachings?
Yes, definitely. I think it's very important to share my experiences so that it's more relatable to other women and girls out there. So to share a bit about my story is that over the years, I've lost my menstrual cycle 3 times. And, once was an eating disorder, then over exercising and stress. And I guess I never really realized the importance of my hormones and the role that they play in, my overall health as a woman. And I think having gone through all of this myself, I now realize how important it is to educate other people about it. And I think over the years, I've spent so much time and money on doctors and energy healers and everything that I thought was going to make me feel better. And I fixated on, body image, insomnia, gut issues, the list goes on. There's so many things I feel like I've struggled with, anxiety, depression, everything. And I feel like there's so many other girls out there who can relate. And so many of us women, when we struggle with something, we go to one doctor, they'll send you to your GP, then they'll send you to an endocrinologist, they'll send you to, an autoimmune doctor. And none of those doctors are talking to one another. So you're dealing with one who specializes in something and one who specializes in another, but no one's communicating. And they're also not, some of them don't have the adequate knowledge that we necessarily need. So your doctor may just put you on the contraceptive pill and tell you, oh, you've got menstrual cramps or you've got cysts on your ovaries, whatever, we'll just put you on the contraceptive pill and that's going to fix everything. And months to years go by, you're still on the contraceptive pill, you don't feel any different. You're now dealing with mood swings, anxiety, weight gain, anything, all those things. And I just feel like it's not fair on us as women to not have the adequate support that we actually need. And so along with eating, sleeping, breathing, our periods are our fifth vital sign. They are a sign into our bodies. When you really pay attention to your cycle, you will notice changes in your cervical fluid, your cervical position, breast tenderness, menstrual cramps, whatever it is, food cravings, your sleep. All of those are all signs from your body to tell you how you are coping. And I just think that, we need to educate more women on how to pick up these signs and symptoms so that we can feel better.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that GPs are not necessarily trained. Is female health, I guess, is like a specialist subject that not every GP will train in. So if a female goes to a GP with a menstrual issue,
I feel like there's some GPs out there who have an open mind to it, and there's others who are still stuck in the old school way of thinking. And I'm not bashing GPs at all, because I know of some really great ones who have helped me. But I just think that a lot of doctors, you get put on the pill. Actually, speaking to a lot of my friends and girls who have gone through this, they've experienced struggles with their menstrual cycle, and the first person they turn to is their doctor. They don't know that there is a doctor for X, Y, Z, and the rest. They go to their GP because that's what they know. It's always been their family doctor for years. It's what's easiest. So that's their first kind of point of contact, and the first point of information that they actually get. So because it's the first information they get, they just absorb it and take it as that's the only solution. They don't think, oh, well, let me question my GP and go and do some research and find out what else is out there. They just go, okay, cool. I'm experiencing irregularities in my cycle, or I've got a heavy bleed or something. I'm just going to listen to what the first doctor that I go to tells me to do, and I'm going to stick with that for so many years and hope that it helps.
Yeah. Although, to be honest, that you'd expect to be able to take that advice from your GP and go with it. You wouldn't expect that you'd have to, do your own research as well. We spoke to Katrina D'Artois in January about the importance of nutrition, and you touched on it earlier, but this, of course, has a huge impact on our menstrual cycle, doesn't it?
Yeah, hugely. I listened to that podcast with her, and I really enjoyed that because I obviously found it so relatable. And I think what she said is so spot on. The way that we nourish our bodies plays a huge role in how we function. And, for example, I'm not sure if you ever noticed, when you were having a regular bleed, if you ever picked up on, that your body was craving certain foods at certain times of the month, or, you felt a certain way at different times of the month. And I think, what Katrina was saying in terms of your bodies and nourishment is over the cycle. I'm not going to say a month, because a cycle is not necessarily a month. It changes from every woman. So over the period of your cycle, your hormones fluctuate the whole time. And, during certain times, you're going to crave cold, juicy, raw foods. And at other times, you're going to crave warm, delicious, roasted veggies, soups, and things like that. So I think nutrition in our bodies impacting our menstrual cycles, it's huge.
Yeah. And that, I find that really interesting. Could you tell me a bit more about that? How do our biological differences affect us, and why it's important to be in tune with your body when it comes to stress, diet, over-exercising, and how this impacts your menstrual cycle?
Yeah, so to not get too technical about it, I'll keep it as basic as I can. So in a woman's menstrual cycle, she's got 4 phases. She's got her follicular phase, her ovulatory phase, her luteal phase, and then her menstrual cycle, her menstrual phase, which is her bleed. And so over those different phases, your hormones are fluctuating the entire time. So I'll use 2 of the phases, for example. So in your luteal phase, which is kind of like the build-up just before your bleed, you'll start noticing that women start to retreat inwards. They start to slow down. They want to have more of their own time and space. This is a good time for root veggies, soups, warm, nourishing foods. This is what your body's craving just before and during a bleed. And, rather than doing high intensity exercise and running and more stressful exercise, this would be a time for you to be doing more gentle exercise, winding down. And then you go into your bleed. And then, you come out of your bleed, you go into your follicular phase, your energy levels start to rise, and then you get to your ovulatory phase. And in this phase is you're craving the raw, cold, juicy foods, fruits, veggies. Your body is in a hot and fiery, ready to take on the world kind of phase. So you can imagine this inner fire burning. Colder foods, raw foods are easier to digest. And you think of it as your ovulation phase is when a woman that's when she's fertile. And it's just amazing the way that the body works, because she comes across as hot, fiery, sexy, ready to take on the world, business planning, dreaming, scheming, social, ready to attract a partner. And she's giving off all this energy because this is the way she's going to reproduce. It's the body's sign saying, I'm ready to make some babies. But in your ovulatory phase is where your reproduction will be happening. And if we are over-exercising or undernourishing our bodies or stressing it out, your body goes into survival state and shuts down all the processes that it thinks is unnecessary to continue survival mode. So reproduction is not vital for living. So that's how girls lose their periods, all of that, the body just sees as not ready to bring a baby into this world, let alone you can't carry one, you can't nourish anything. So I'm just going to get rid of the menstrual cycle so that we can put all the nutrients towards getting you to just survive.
It's the same as stress, isn't it? Stress has the same impact on the body. It's
hugely. Yeah, stress is a big one, and I think it's very much overlooked.
Yeah, no, it's pretty incredible that the body does this. It's your body is always looking out for you. It's always trying to do the best it can for you, and which is why the chat with Katrina was so interesting, and this as well, that we need to nourish our bodies, we need to fuel our bodies to support them.
Definitely.
Yeah, and the menstrual cycle is just another example of this.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a few factors earlier that personally affected your cycle. Can we delve a bit deeper on that? What are the common lifestyle choices which negatively impact our cycles?
So the best way that I can answer this, I guess, is by sharing a bit deeper into my story and hope that people can learn through it. So the first time I lost my cycle was a good few years ago from undernourishment. And I struggled with a condition called orthorexia, which is basically an obsession with clean eating and exercise. And my body didn't have enough nutrients to support a healthy bleed. Lost the cycle, anyway, carried on with life, and doctor put me on the pill again. And anyway, I ended up getting a bleed back, didn't think anything of it. Second time round, I lost it due to over-exercising. So eating disorder thoughts kind of were triggered again, and I went back down the over-exercising route and just pushing through any feelings of tiredness and, always using exercise as my sort of escape. And working in the hospitality industry at the time, I thought that exercise was always going to make me feel better. And anyway, this ended up leading to weight gain and lost my period. And so, increased stress levels, and something that I had to learn the hard way. So second time was like, okay, something's not right, but okay, I'm going to go back to my doctor and he's going to put me on the pill, and I've got cysts on my ovaries and misdiagnosed me with PCOS because no one told me that polycystic ovarian syndrome is different to having cysts on the ovaries. So there was that. And then the third time I lost it was due to stress. And this was during a time of heartbreak, being on a boat that I didn't feel completely fulfilled on, and didn't prioritize time for myself during my breaks. I was always just trying to do too much, and I decided then to move boats and go to a busy charter boat, which I thought was a great decision. Work with friends, make some money. And this then led me to lose my bleed again for the third time, just because I did not have enough rest and I wasn't feeling fulfilled in, I didn't have enough time for myself. And so I basically went through pre-menopause. I was having hot flashes at night and sweating, and I was having anxiety, mood swings. I was gaining weight. I didn't know why, because I was eating so healthily. I then started, watching my diet, and I was like, nothing's changing. So I realized that, this is where a big change needed to happen. And so I did a lot of independent research, and this is where I found out about the condition called hypothalamic amenorrhea, which means to be without a bleed. And this then led me to really sit down and have to make the tough decisions. And I decided to leave the boat that I was on and just realized that I needed a time out at home. And so I spent a few months at home trying to recover my cycle. And it was really difficult because, spending so many years obsessing around food and restrictive eating, I was told that the only way that I was going to recover my cycle again was if I ate more food, even though I thought I was eating enough already, was to stop all high intensity exercise. So basically get my heart rate to around 120 if I wanted to do any exercise. It meant my love for running had to, be put on the back burner, and just prioritize rest and sleep. And it was a really difficult time because, to try and explain to your family as well, who are so supportive of everything that I do, and your friends, trying to explain to them, I know I look like I'm at a healthy weight, but apparently I need to eat more and gain more weight to get my period back. And I need to slow down on the exercise. And it's a very foreign concept for people to understand. But basically, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to your stress levels. So the nourishment, the exercise weren't serving my cortisol levels. And so it was really hard, trying to accept this new body and accept that I didn't have to exercise every day and I could eat foods that I used to fear. And I had to buy bigger clothes, which is always hard to do. No one wants to do that. But in doing this, I had to trust the process and trust the women that I was working with. I joined a lot of community groups of like-minded women who were going through the same thing. And I think if I didn't have them, there's no way I would have done it. There's no way I would have trusted the process. I think hearing stories from other women who had gone through it, I was like, okay, this process works. Just stick with it, Tay. You will get through it. So that was really hard. And I remember I'd left the boat and I went on a walking safari in the bush with one of my best friends, was hosting this retreat, and my parents came, and it was the most amazing week, walking through the wilderness, doing yoga under a forest of trees, sitting under the stars, journaling, meditating. And it was actually the day that I left that retreat. We stopped over somewhere along the way on our way home, and I came out of the bathroom and I was like, Dad, I need to use your car. I need to go to the gas station. I need tampons. I don't have any with me. And he was like, my parents were like, what? And I was like, I have my bleed. After not having my bleed for over a year, I've got my period. And I remember sitting there feeling so proud and so overwhelmed. And I was just like, thank you so much to everyone who had shared their stories with me, because that feeling of having a bleed, I'll never forget that feeling of how grateful I was, and grateful to myself for actually putting myself through the discomfort, the fear, and trusting the process. Because now every single month when I'm getting my bleed, I track my cycle now. I look forward to my bleed each month. I'm like, cool, I'm ovulating. I'm getting to this phase of my cycle, and I will never, ever wish my bleed away. There's so many girls who see their bleed as a burden, and they think, oh, I didn't bleed this month. Hey, this is so cool. I can go to the beach or whatever they, want to do. And I'm just like, bring it on. Whatever's going on in my life, I will be so grateful to have a period every single cycle. I will never take it for granted ever again. And, in saying all of this as well, I'm not saying that I'm perfect and fully recovered. There's days when I really struggle with my body image still. And then there's days when I feel like I'm on top of the world and I'm super confident and happy and radiant in my body. And, I eat mindfully, intuitively. I try to be healthy, but I try not restrict foods anymore. And I'm open to, social events and all of that. But basically what I'm trying to say is that just because I've got my cycle back doesn't mean I'm necessarily fully healed and recovered. There are tough days, and there's good and bad days, but it's a journey. And so I feel like I need to be open and honest with people, because I think a lot of coaches that I've spoke to, they act like they've got their shit together and that they've overcome all of this. And in reality, having spoken to other people, they don't always have their shit together. So I want to be that person who can help other people by being as honest as I can, knowing that I have my good and bad days, and I'm willing to help them through their good and bad days too, by sharing my experiences.
Wow. And, thank you so much for sharing your story, Tayla, because it can't be easy. It's a very personal story, but like you said, a lot of women will be listening to this and will be, comforted by the fact that it what you've been through, what they might be going through. It's normal, you know, and that there's people that they can talk to. There is support out there. And I don't know, I feel a bit overwhelmed by your story, Tayla.
It's crazy to think that I'm sharing it, because just a few years ago, it was like, I was in a position where I was so embarrassed to share it. And now I'm just like, come at me with questions, anyone, friends of friends. I'm constantly saying, if you know someone struggling, give them my number, let them, follow me on Instagram or something, because if I can help anyone, I'd be more than happy to share my story. I'm really proud of the fact that I've come through this. And if I hadn't had those experiences, I wouldn't be studying all of this and going down this path that I feel like I've really found my true passion.
Can I ask you, you mentioned earlier about trusting the process. What was the process?
So it was having to eat more, slowing down on the exercise, focusing really on the rest, the meditation, the journaling, going inwards, trying to listen to my body. And I know that people say like, oh, listen to your body, but they don't really know what that means. But it's honestly being still, being quiet, deep belly breaths, tuning into the sensations that you feel in your joints, in your muscles. You're just really paying attention to your breathing. I didn't realize how much I was living in like fight or flight, but that process of knowing that, okay, the goal is to get your period back. The way you're going to do that is to slow down, manage your stress, stop fixating on the exercise, stop fixating on the food, and just accept that it's going to be the next few months, your body's going to change, and you're going to learn to love it. And that was it. And that was the process, and just trying to find self-love again.
And what about working on board a yacht? Are any of these areas amplified? Do you have advice for fellow female yachties?
So I really want to get across to other yachties that they are not alone. I mean, since sharing my story, I've had so many girls within the yachting industry and out of the yachting industry reach out to me and say that they're struggling with one of these elements, whether it's the stress, the over-exercising, or the eating disorder elements of it. And I just want them to know that there are so many girls out there, and I would love to try and connect everyone eventually, because I feel like we've got so much to learn from one another. And like I said, my journey, I couldn't have done it if I wasn't in communications with other women who were going through the same thing, the same struggles. And I think that being in the yachting environment, we are in such a fast-paced environment. It's just go, go, go. You're living in fight or flight. Everything's done in a rush. We don't take time to sneak into the bathroom quickly and go and sit on the floor and take 3 deep belly breaths, which is what I do. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I actually just toilet break, go sit on the bathroom floor, and just turn my radio down for a couple minutes and take the deep breaths, tell the girls where I'm going to be. And when they're going through the same thing, encouraging them to do the same thing, And I think in the yachting industry, there's also so much stress around. We share cabins with people. We work in a small space with people we may or may not like. You've got a lack of privacy. Everyone's involved in each other's business. There's no secrets on board. Everyone is just very involved in each other's lives. And I think for me, a huge one, as well as some of my friends, is a comparison to other girls in yachting. Whether it's, you're in the laundry and you're folding someone else's skirt size and you used to be a 0 and now you're a 4, or the other way around, and you're comparing to how much they're eating or how much they're exercising, and you're not doing it, or you feel absolutely wrecked during your break and you want to rest, but someone else is doing, a 10K run, and you think, well, maybe I should be doing that. Yeah. And it's so hard not to compare. And also being surrounded by food all day, we end up just snacking the whole day, and then we feel guilty about it or shame about it. And I think those are the biggest struggles in yachting. And my advice to other yachties would be to not be afraid to say no to things that don't serve you. If you don't want to go on a night out, take the time for yourself. Often, myself and a friend of mine, we are big advocates for self-healing. And, on drop-off day, when everyone else wants to go and have a couple drinks, I'll go for a massage first or to an energy healer or something, and just focus on myself, and then go and join the crew for an activity. But prioritizing yourself is huge, and using your breaks to actually rest. You don't have to exercise every day. You don't have to eat completely healthily every single day. I'm not saying that someone can, go off the rails and eat unhealthily all the time, but there's a balance, and it's okay to have the balance. It's okay to take the rest and listen to your body, learn to listen to your body, and just really try not to compare yourself to other girls in the industry, because I mean, the chances are that they feel the same way as you do are so high. And if you just, open the communication between one another, I think that everyone would be really surprised as to how many people they know within the industry who are struggling with the same thing that they are. And I think through my journey, me sharing this with other girls on board from all the boats I've been on, I've built such amazing, beautiful, strong connections and friendships with other girls that I never thought I would be friends with. But because we've shared the same struggles, one of the elements, eating food, eating restrictions, exercise, stress, we all share something that we can relate to one another on.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, your passion for this subject is very clear. What do you have planned for the future? Where would you like this journey to take you?
So I am very passionate about the subject, yes, and I'm actually in the process of dreaming and scheming and business planning with Sisterhood by Michelle. She is helping me bring my vision to life, and for now, I've got a whole bunch of ideas, but to summarize it, I want to educate women within the yachting industry and out of the yachting industry how to understand their menstrual cycles, how to love and appreciate and get excited about their menstrual cycles, and also helping girls overcome eating disorders or disordered thoughts around food in a bit of like a coaching aspect, in terms of not so much a life coach, but just helping girls show them, okay, this is how you can exercise at certain times of your cycle. This is how you can eat at certain times of your cycle. This is going to be the best way to nourish your body, your mind, your soul, everything. And eventually go on to hosting some retreats. I don't want to say too much because I'm still planning it all and don't want to give too much away. But that's like a end goal of mine.
And if there's somebody listening who would like to share their story or talk to somebody, or is there a community available that that women can join and talk to, or is that something else that's on your agenda?
So eventually I want to create a platform where we can connect as like-minded women, forming a like-minded community. So for now, I guess there's different community platforms for girls dealing with certain issues or struggles, shall I say. So, I mean, they're welcome to reach out to me on Instagram. I haven't set up my business page just yet. I'm struggling to settle on a name, but they're welcome to message me, and I'm so happy to guide them in any direction that they need.
And also, I guess, another important message is, to talk to each other, support each other on board the boats. There's no shame attached to our menstrual cycle. And if you want to talk about something, talk to each other.
Completely. I think so much of my healing has come through talking and sharing and being vulnerable. I am an open book, so everyone I know knows my story. On social media, everybody knows my story because I don't see the point in hiding it. I'm not ashamed of it. And so I would hope the end goal is for women to become more vocal about it, especially within the yachting community, so that men and women both understand the menstrual cycle and the importance of stress and the menstrual cycle and our well-being. We want to thrive in the industry. We don't want to just be in the industry just ticking away one day at a time. We want to really thrive in the industry as a whole. And I think the connections that can come out of this wonderful industry are amazing. And actually, I wanted to share, there's an amazing book by, it's called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. And it was a book that I read a few years ago. And basically, it's just all about women's bodies being different. And it's not necessarily about the menstrual cycle, but I think that it's a really great book for women to start off with if they want to understand their body. It talks about how we are all different. Our boobs, our nipples, our vaginas, or our vulvas, should I say, are all different. And it's totally acceptable. It speaks about everything from sex lives, libido, everything. And it just makes you feel so normal in who you are as a woman. And it's a book I highly recommend that women read.
Which is so important, isn't it? I mean, you talked about body image earlier, but it's something that I think most women, if they're honest, will admit that they struggle with that. Social media is just rife with this idea of perfection, and it's just, in my opinion, it just doesn't really exist, and it's just an unrealistic sets
Yeah.
realistic expectations for women. So I mean, I could talk to you for hours. It is such an interesting subject, Tayla, and thank you so much for sharing your story, for being vulnerable on here, and for helping other women talk about this very important subject.
Thank you so much.